future trends, deep insights, industry leaders. This is the iGaming Next podcast with your host, Heidi Lofthus.
Welcome back to iGaming Next Online.
There's not just one goal, there's multiple goals. Ignore dilution if the deal's good, because you'll make more from a bigger pot.
It wasn't that people preferred the office or preferred remote. They actually preferred the option.
In other words, COVID-19 is giving us a glimpse into the future.
Robin, we are at our offices in Soho, Gezira.
And aren't they nice?
They are amazing. I've been having a few podcasts here with your side as a background. And as I told you before, I'm thinking I will have this tapestry as my background in my own office.
What do you like about it?
I think it's the nature kind of thing. It's a little bit dark, so I might go a bit lighter. But it's somehow, I don't know, mystique. I think it's very nice.
It sets for a nice ambience and atmosphere for our interview. I like it a lot.
Interview, that's a good. Okay, let's actually start then. You are in Malta, so I grabbed the opportunity of actually having you come to our offices and
Thanks
meet
a lot for the invitation, Heidi.
Thank you coming. Thank you for coming. So it's a good thing that vaccination is being held in Malta and you could come here. So how are you actually feeling?
A bit under the weather, but I'm so impressed. We spent about 5 minutes in and out. It was quicker than an airport security control, and it was the Pfizer vaccine. I'm so happy about that. A little bit of side effects now. It was just 2 days ago, so I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. But Malta is doing great. Go Malta. 70% of the population soon vaccinated. The second highest country in the world, I think, behind Israel. So you're doing it, Malta. Well done.
But I had exactly the same with Pfizer and the same experience. Going, the queue was about 150 meters. Yeah. Within 30 minutes, we were done and ready.
Amazing.
So it's awesome.
When Malta wants something done, they're doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. So what we're doing now is having you here talking about sort of HR side of things, and I want to hear everything about your story. Yeah. As we were talking about in the car, what I know you from is obviously we spent a decade together in Malta. Not really, our roads haven't really crossed until now.
Yeah.
How
come?
I don't know.
What's the odds?
Probably different roles in different companies, sort of not matching. Yeah. But you were with Donker when I was Redbet.
True.
That's your affiliate time, basically.
Hampus Eriksson.
Hampus Eriksson.
Redbet. Yeah, I remember.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very close person to mine.
Magdalena
as well.
Yeah, it's a small world.
I can probably sort of list all the employees throughout all the 10 years of Redbet when we ran the place.
Awesome people.
Yes. Really good times. Really good times. Yeah. During those times, we had our first kids. You and I, the kids shared the nursery. Yeah. So I mean, you've always been around, but this is the first time we actually meet in person. Yeah. And another time that I actually come to think of is talking about Redbet and talking about sort of long time here, and I want to hear about sort of the gig beach, etc.
Looking forward, a pleasure.
That's when you were setting up Gig Beach, the office, with the slides and everything. Yeah. You kind of ruined it for everyone else.
How come?
No, it's sort of, that became the bar. Yeah. That's where everyone wanted to be and what all the employees should be able to provide. Yeah. So I remember at that time we were in Plaza. We were about 95 employees at the time, and we started redoing all our offices at the same time. with a budget like this.
If we could
compared.
inspire people, I'm super happy about
Yes.
it. We try to bring something good to the island and to the community, and we put a lot of energy and work into it. So if we could inspire people, I'm happy about it.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So even if people didn't actually go to your office and start working for gig, then at least we did something from our end.
I'll tell you a story about the slide because you brought it up now. The slide cost £22,000, and it was a bit of a gimmick because when we decided to have it, we had like this open flooring between two floors. So we needed to make something which vertically made sense and became aesthetic. So we had on one end like a very large screen that we could use to showcase products and things happening. And then we put the slide in there. And the idea was actually that we, the marketing value, £22,000, you can either put it into magazine adverts or something. And it will only work this and this well. But then we started thinking about the marketing value of having the slider, because Gig Beach is in St. George's Bay. It's right at the beach. It's in the middle of Passville, in the heart of Malta and St. Julian's, where everybody walks by every now and then during the course of a year. So
And it's sparkling yellow.
Exactly. Oh, that was on purpose. We picked the color. So it's a glass building, right? And you can see in and you can see through it. And you can see it from two sides, the alleyway leading up and obviously Frontline Beach. So we calculated how many people do we think pass there? How many of these are iGaming people? What will the average cost per impression be? And now how many conversations will that spark? What is the cost per conversation? And what will the marketing value be? Also very cool. My son came to the office. He did nothing but going through the slide and up the elevator and through the slide and up the elevator. We wanted to be family friendly. I think it was a good choice.
But the plan was for people only to go down.
Yeah, but people, a few tried to go up as well, and especially when we had parties and these type of things. In fact, I tried myself. But after, people, they get a little bit nervous, especially the Maltese. So I tried to sort of lead the way and show that, this is a place you can be playful, that you can enjoy yourself, because when you're not stressed, that's when the best ideas are coming in. The most outputs. I tried to take the slide, but people didn't really use it, only when it was events and these kind of things. So it ended up being a bit of a marketing gimmick.
Where did all these ideas come from? You were talking about people passing on the street, but had you seen it previously in other places? I'm thinking that's the office of Silicon Valley. I can't make it a personal reference. I've never been there, but
yeah,
it's sort of the signaling that was sent out.
The old poker player Phil Galfond that I used to look up to when I was a poker player, he built the slide from one floor to the other in his home. And I was always inspired and thought that I would want something like that. And then later on I saw the Googles, all of these offices. Exactly. And again, they promote playfulness, they promote joy. And I always wanted one. In fact, the original idea was obviously to have one from outside the building down to the sea. But that proved to be a little bit difficult with MIPA and the planning authority and these type of things. So we just scrapped that at the ideation phase. And then we couldn't really give up on the idea, right? We needed to have it inside the office. So I'm glad we got it done. It was an English provider, though, of office slides. So I think it is a big thing over there as well.
There you go. Now they got some branding now.
Yeah,
so Gelford knows about this, that he inspired you about this.
I haven't sent it to him, but I should, now that you're telling me. Yeah, that would
it's
be
about the
something he...
gratification and,
Yeah, I think he would like that.
So, okay, visionary. Would you say that that's you?
I don't know. I like to improve things. I like to deliver something that brings value to someone. And I think life is too short to not do something about it when you believe in something. So I guess I have just tried to pursue what's inside the head and implement it and execute it. And I've been fortunate to be around great people that actually has the capability to do it. I couldn't do it alone. I don't think I'm a visionary, no. I just like to implement things and improve things.
But you're a techie, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Your background is...
Yeah, well...
tech nerdish, sort of.
I'm definitely a nerd.
Able to sort of put out things that I would like to get out by myself and then make a business out of it.
Yeah, well, I think I qualify for the techie thing because I did 1.5 years as a CTO in Gig next to being the CEO. But I think I scared all the engineers, because how come this guy with no computer science background and no coding background comes in and suddenly leads all these incredibly capable people. But I think it was sort of to bridge the first view of a customer to the first line of code of the products you're making and trying to understand everything. And I wouldn't call myself a techie because I think the people that are really good at the technology, they would see right through me and think I'm a bluff. But I like to learn things and I like to learn everything. And I think if you are really focused and if you are thinking logically, then you can understand almost anything that anyone is doing if you put in the work. And I'm very interested in that field. I think it is underestimated by most CEOs, by most executives. Ultimately, technology enables the product enables the business. If you don't understand the technology, how can you actually decide over a company? So I tried to learn as much as I could.
That's interesting. Let's get back to that as well, because I'm thinking the same with people.
Yeah.
So
True.
it has high demands on the CEO of a company, both from a tech and people sort of orientation.
People are
these
even more
orientations don't always go together.
Yeah, soon they will though on Neuralink, but that's another story.
So you lost me there, for instance.
Yes.
All right, so tech entrepreneur or businessman, what rings loudest in you?
You know, neither. I try to deliver something to the world that brings value to someone. If you want to do that at scale, you need to generate value. You need to be value accretive. You need to make money. And I guess that lends itself to being a businessman. But ultimately, it is about coming up with products and services that benefit someone.
You had Wozniak coming to the office. I'm going to see if I can quote him.
Yeah.
So he came to your stage and he said something like, I decided to have a life where I chased things that people didn't know that much about.
Right.
So that they could also learn.
Yeah.
It sounds a little bit what you were saying as well. Is that what drives you forward?
Yeah. Like I went to school and I had a hard time being there enough. And, I got decent grades in some subjects and then I got terrible grades in some subjects and then I didn't get any grades at all in other subjects. And then I discovered Google and then I figured out that you can learn what you need to learn and what you want to learn instead of what somebody is telling you to learn. And once I did that, then I didn't stop spending time on learning. And I think I'm up that street. I'll tell you a funny story about Wozniak because he, not many people know, but he survived an airplane crash. He was in a small plane and it crashed and he actually survived. But he got one sort of issue from it, which was that he lost the ability to recognize faces. So if he was sitting here next to you and he saw you, he would only remember your face for a little while. So when he was here, I met him many times and we talked before and after and it was super interesting and he's obviously one of my idols and for many reasons and he could recognize my voice but not my face and I find it incredible that he still managed to sort of keep the memory of everybody he meet and understand everybody he meet, because if you don't understand facial impressions, if you don't remember facial impressions, if you don't understand body language, if you can't recognize people, then how can you actually sort of store and compute how people are? And he did so incredibly well.
By people's stories.
By people's stories, exactly. And he had many of them. And probably one of the most interesting characters I ever met. I remember he told me another thing. He told me that, we're going towards people now, not software, so I apologize for the detour. But he told me another thing that I think people should think about these days, that he said software is there to protect the hardware. He obviously started with hardware. He built the Apple II and Steve Jobs sold it and it became the first mass adopted personal computer in many ways. And then later on today we have cloud services, we have Amazon, we have decentralized networks, we have blockchain, Bitcoin and so forth. And these days all the engineers, all the people, they're programming, they build their software. massive consumption of data. Bitcoin is using more than a large nation in terms of power, and we need to save this planet, right? And it's become so easy to just load something onto the cloud and whatnot. And he was very passionate about actually trying to write code as smart as you could, so that it used as little hardware as you could, so that the footprint and the impact on the planet would be better. So it's a really, truly, genuinely caring person about people, about the world around him, and why he's doing things, and therefore I loved him.
So okay, so he's building technology, sustaining technology.
Correct.
Basically.
Big thing for him.
And how old is he, this guy?
I have no idea. By looking
Doesn't
at him,
matter,
not more than 8 or 9, I think. He
Yeah.
is playful as anyone I ever met, super friendly, and it's still a child within him that never stops.
Yeah. But going back to the stories of the people that he meets, it's I see that as a personal trait as well. You sort of you can easily single out the authentic people that you meet that sort of have some kind of remembrance of you, even if you met a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like if you go to this sort of quite shallow mingle party with whatever CEOs or C-levels, and then you meet someone, the next time they could actually tell something that I said from the beginning, and they would be able to retell it.
Yeah.
That's a true sign of authenticity, I think. They were actually really listening.
Yeah.
And I think that's becoming more and more important. In businesses today, anything in terms of, it's a long loop to mental health, but inclusion, diversity, the real sort of listening and hearing what people are saying.
Yeah.
So really understand it.
And not wait for your turn to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is what this guy is sort of forced to do in the end, to remember who he's currently talking to.
Yeah, he's amazing. I found it interesting. There was a study done a while ago, and they looked at the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that stores emotional, basically relationships.
Yeah.
Yes, and they looked at primates, and they looked at whether the size of the amygdala correlated with the size of the herd in which they organize themselves in. And they saw it did. So if you look at primates and you go through, orangutans, chimps, and up to humans and so forth, then you'll find that that it correlates the size of it. And by that theory, the average capacity a human has for storing emotional impressions about people is about 180. So the average human can maintain 180 relationships. Now in this day and time, and especially as we go in digital, you might have thousands of friends on Facebook, Instagram, and whatnot. You're bombarded with, but perhaps you don't keep it as sort of an ad friend in your Facebook profile, but they will still come your way through the stream and these type of things. You're bombarded with impressions and with people, and you need to store all of this. So we're not really designed to keep that many people in our orbit, and but you can train it, and you can learn to sort of keep information about more people within yourself, and that's something I find interesting. In business today, I think relationships are getting shorter and shorter. People start somewhere, they stop. You have the gig economy, freelancers, whatnot. You need to, over time, maintain an incredibly large network. So sort of training your brain and training yourself into keeping many relationships, I think is very important.
Exactly, because what you're saying sounds a bit sad.
Why?
Shorter relationships and sort of more shallow friends and lots of sort of impressions, rather than longer relationships and
true, but you meet more
by.
people.
So by actively actually working on expanding this knowledge, or sort of how to work around it, fighting nature, if you like. Okay, and how would you do that then?
By listening. And I thought I was a good listener. And, let's talk HR and leadership, and we can get back to that. But one of your best and most important abilities as a leader should be to be a good listener. And I thought I was one. I thought I was sitting, looking at people, understanding what they're saying, soaking in it. until I realized I wasn't at all. And you start to discover things like, do you have emotions inside of you while you're listening to somebody? Like, are you starting to tell yourself, I agree, I disagree? Do you start to get annoyance, or do you get, these type of things? Do you wait for your turn to speak? Like, do you sit there and just wait until you can come with something? Do you put a layer on the other person? Have you met someone, when you tell a good story, then it's just a matter of time before they tell almost the same story, except it's even better and they've done something, Like, to be a good listener, you need to genuinely be interested in people and what they're saying. And I think if you do that well, then certain parts of your brain gets more activated and over time more developed, and your ability to process people gets far better. So I think start by being a good listener and be really humble about what being a good listener is, and then
staying objective.
There's nothing called objective or subjective. I once learned only intersubjective. To start, I think.
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
All right, so HR and leadership.
Yeah.
We could look backwards and everything that you did with your team at Gig.
Yes.
But that was sort of a few years ago, and there are so many things that have happened.
Yeah.
Years have passed, but we've been through a pandemic as well.
Indeed.
There's so much things that we have learned, especially the remote understanding, listening, inclusion, and mental health, and by that also enlarging the relationships that you have that are not even physical or face-to-face.
Correct.
So what about if you would do the Gig thing again, and tell us more about your ventures, what would you do differently? Is the yellow slide as important as it used to be then?
So let's start from leadership to explain Gig, and then how it has evolved. So what I want you to think about is that when you get leadership responsibility, what an incredible responsibility that actually is. So let's say you're leading a small team of 3, 4, 5 people. Now these are people that is choosing to follow you and your direction, and they are putting, they only have one life, and they're putting 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 years into the hands of you and the direction that you're going. And when you really start to think about that, then you realize what an enormous responsibility that you have bestowed upon yourself and that people have bestowed upon you. When I started Gig, I was inspired by creating a company, getting into the limelight, delivering stuff, and with all good intentions, wealth, all of those things. And of course, I think we did it rather well. We had years of consecutive profitable growth, and the people were genuinely happy there. But it was quite a poor level of leadership in the end, because we didn't really identify the value of people and the respect you need to pay to people.
Business is easy when it goes well, and everyone can sort of get a monetary and materialistic kind of value out of it as well.
Sure, and up to a certain level it's quite easy to do business, right? But when you start to reach a certain level of scale, you can no longer know everyone, you can no longer deal with everyone, you can no longer control things in the manner you would do when you're smaller. So ultimately the way this sociology and this organism grows depends on the culture. And the culture is obviously created by the first, the second, the fifth, the 10th, the 51st employee that comes into the company. And how genuine and how sincere that culture is will ultimately determine how sustainable the culture is. And I guess when we started out, we thought we were genuine, we thought we had the right ideas, the right motives, and we did. But as you grow older, and start to reflect on things, I had a chance to both build a company, take it to stock exchange, also get fired by some people I strongly disagreed with. And, I think I learned more from getting fired by the people I disagreed with than I learned from probably a few years of work in before. And, you just need to start to ask yourself some questions about culture and, start with an attitude that absolutely everything that happens to you in life is ultimately your own fault. Now, if you have that attitude, it means that you can fix it, because you can at least find a few little things you can do to improve things. I think if you approach business, if you approach a company, if you approach leadership that way, that it's never anybody else's fault, everything ultimately comes back to you and your own judgment and your own determination. I think you're much better equipped to be a sustainable leader. And perhaps we lost that along the way when we went on the stock exchange, when the market cap grew huge, when numbers were booming. And I think that is something that will never happen again. And when we set up a new company, I'm much more concerned about leading through others, not taking the limelight myself, and authentically enjoying the success that we're bringing as a group.
Did this realization come to you by itself? It sounds like this comes to you via conversations with a coach, or just the fact that you are your own destiny maker. And sometimes rough things have to happen to you to understand that this is not the end of the world, it's actually much better.
Yeah. Well, I did find a life coach or mental coach or therapist or whatever you would like to call it, in which I have enjoyed a lot. And it is something that I probably will do for the rest of my life. I see her at least once per week. And if not her, I would see somebody else. It needs to be a good person. And it has been incredibly rewarding. And yes, some of these concepts she has stimulated. But ultimately, I think just like you need to take responsibility for everything that is happening in your life, I think you also need to give yourself credit. I think definitely it helps to have very good people surrounding you that you can have rewarding conversations with and that you can learn from. But you ultimately need to seek those conversations, and you need to go down that road yourself.
Exactly. And choose that road yourself. Going back to culture. Setting up, always exciting. You're 5 up to 20 people. You're a small family. Everyone is wearing different hats of responsibility. Everyone is genuinely caring for the other one and happily to help out in respective areas. Correct. There's no we and them in this kind of era of a business. And this I'm also referring back to Sapiens. I'm sure you read the book about, again, going back to comparing with the apes and the monkeys. We can handle a group of up to 100 people and feel the family dedication to our teams and one leader without a bigger vision, without a bigger sort of purpose. Whereas when the company grows bigger than that, you need the values, the core values. This is us. This is what we're going against or towards.
I would correct you. I think you need them right from the start, and I think they should never ever change. And that's really, really important. And I haven't actually read the book, but I do remember that on the Joe Rogan show, he recommended it to Elon Musk. So then I'm guessing it's a really good book. No, I think you need to set the values right from the start. I try to bring in consultants and run projects where we're over like the next 2 months. Are we going to put down a group of people and we're going to set up?
And decide.
It doesn't work.
No, exactly.
It needs to come from within, and from within, not necessarily from the leader, within from the organization. You need to ask yourself, what are we truly about? And values should not be like, we are business-minded, or we are always putting profitability first, or we are, joyful at work. You should find some unique characteristic about your organization that people sincerely and genuinely feel, that is heartfelt. And that's your values. And they don't have to be a word, they can be a sentence, or they can be a paragraph, or they don't even have to be written down, they can be spoken about. But values should definitely be, you all heard, this culture eats strategy for breakfast. Like, you start with a vision, and then you have values, and then you set the strategy. In that order, in my opinion.
So if you were going to do it again?
I am doing it again.
How? Okay, tell us.
No, like I woke up on the 6th of September 2019, and then the new chairman of Gaming Innovation Group had announced that apparently they wanted a change in leadership. So then I had to think, whether this was real, but since, we were a Nasdaq listed company and stuff, then I realized it was pretty quickly. So then sort of the choice was between, okay, so what are we going to do now? Are we going to be depressed? Or are we going to make a new company? And so within some 2 hours, I started planning a new company, of course. And then I realized, that I've been fortunate that I had a chance to, at a very young age, be trusted with responsibility and be a leader and build a company. But I did so many mistakes, right? And I realized, what if I start a company again now? Then how awesome would that be? I finish university now and can start to do the real deal. So there was obviously some from and back with GIG to find an amicable agreement. We succeeded in that. And thereafter, we started building a new company. It's called Ichiban. And we're now 36 people, and it launched about half a year ago, the first product, and it's been fantastic. It's been a bit weird because we had a COVID situation, and I hired a chief operating officer, a fantastic lady called Jenny Strandberg from Casumo. I didn't actually meet her before until a few days ago when I came to Malta. So, and that experience I had with many, so we've been fully remote and connecting through these devices, right? Through this expanded cognition we have. And it's worked. And the company has been very successful.
Fully remote.
Fully remote.
Fully remote.
Yeah, it's like you have to see it from two angles, right? On the one hand, we're now having the debate, right? Do you want to go back into an office or not? We have an office here in Malta, and not everybody want to go back there. They're enjoying the comfort of their own home and I guess the personalization of their work environment, right? And but on the other hand, I think if I tried to introduce like 3 years ago, like now you're all going to work from home, people would obviously go like, okay, so you're going to pay parts of my rent for the room I'm using for an office. What about my printer? What about my, So now it suddenly happened that companies have suddenly like Airbnb'd their office space, right, without paying for it. And people are sitting at home. So it makes companies more profitable. It makes employees more happy. Whether we will need offices in some way or shape or form, we have one. It's probably just going to be a collaboration area where people can come and brainstorm and meet clients and each other and...
that's what we do. That's it's amazing.
How does it work for you?
So we have, we are here now, you and I, so we can use it as a studio. And I also get the chance to meet the team members. So on Friday we're having lunch, and everyone who's in Malta, because we are also sort of remote first. Everyone who's in Malta, come and have lunch together. And then obviously respecting rules and from the tenants or from the landlords in terms of COVID restrictions. But there is a possibility and a natural place for us to meet. So
do you enjoy working from home, or do you come here to the office when you want to work yourself, or when you want to sit down at a desk, or do you sit at home and just come here to work when you need to meet people, or I'm going to
paraphrase my mom, actually. I go to the office to socialize and then I work at home. And for me it works fantastically, but I do have the need of actually meeting people.
Right.
So I sense that as soon as I sort of sit in a meeting and we decide on something, or when something gets a little bit complicated, then I would like to have the personal sort of, let's do this sort of for real.
You need both. You still need to meet people, and you need the comfort of your own private space.
I think I'm quite normal in that sense.
I think everybody would enjoy this going forward.
Exactly. But the other offices that you have is not in Malta, but it's in Marbella.
Yeah.
That's where you live as well.
Yeah. Fantastic place.
What could you say anything about the difference in terms of your? I mean, yes, you're working from home, but is there any cultural difference from the Marbella team versus the Malta team? Or are they so integrated in terms of teams across the locations?
Well, most people we have in Marbella has actually been in Malta for a few years and have then decided to move to Marbella. So it's, but yes, there is a difference. I think in Malta, I love to come back to Malta. I think it is a beautiful island and it's such a fantastic community. And parts of the reason for that is because, like we talked about on the way over here, that it's so compact. It's such a buzz, it's such a vibe, it's such an energy. You meet people, and especially in our industry, that you can talk with professionally or personally, all the time. And obviously then you get to Marbella, where, you have valleys, you have beaches, you have, it's much more space. People get into a bit more of a relaxed mind state. So whilst I think Malta is incredible for productivity, you're so switched on, you're so focused. Perhaps Marbella is a little bit better for creativity. And I find that, to get into flow, to get into your right mind space, you need to be a little bit less stressed than many people around here are. And you think about, you're obviously going to get many ideas from being continuously switched on and into iGaming. And, but perhaps some of the best ideas are going to come when you also have a more balanced life and you can switch on and off from that world and see different perspectives. And you achieve that in Marbella. You can obviously do that in Malta as well. I found it really hard. I just got sucked into the whole space and just wanted to, beat the last boss and climb the ladder and all of it. And, the new company now is growing much faster than Gig did in the start. And we got to ask ourselves why, right? And I think sort of that... work-life balance has something to do with it.
Some old colleagues, friends of mine from my Gibraltar times are working with you there. So
tell me, who are those guys?
I'm not going to stream it on air, but okay. I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay, cool.
But hi, if you see this.
It's still a small world.
Exactly. It still remains a small world. And that's what I was thinking about. In Gibraltar, when you work with gaming, in Malta, when you work with gaming, this is so condensed. Yes. Whereas what you're saying in Spain, you can actually get out of it as well. So correct. Stockholm obviously has a lot of tech hubs for gaming companies. They sell their tech services to the holding companies in Malta.
Yeah.
But they're not living the vibes in the same way.
Yes.
So getting out of it is actually sort of good for productivity and creativity, you say.
Yeah, I think so. I absolutely think so. And you can obviously achieve that in Malta as well. You can go sailing, but there is more opportunities in Marbella. So I think it was a great choice. There is a company there that is servicing iGaming companies that I'm working in. And I think the vibe there is fantastic. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So again, I'm thinking... COVID could be one of these sort of barriers getting out of, unless you're actually just sitting with your phone and your computer, sort of reading up about gaming constantly. Yes. With COVID, there is so many other opportunities actually arising.
Yeah.
And I'm deeply sorry for the people that don't feel this the same way I do, but there's so many positives and silver lining things that comes out with this as well. Perhaps creativity is not really one of them, but productivity and sustainable industry that are sort of newly awakened.
Yes. And digital transformation has been accelerating, and that's good for our industry and perhaps good for mankind as well. We'll see. But we have definitely accelerated, and I think... if you look at people before COVID, like I'm speaking for myself now, so I had come off a perhaps 8-year work stint where it was 12 hours per day. A couple of years, the last couple of years before COVID, I was probably 200 days a year on trips, on airplanes and flights. I had 2 vertebrae that were out of position. I had a few more kilos than I do now, even though I still have a few too many kilos. And I don't know, it was just full on, right? And I'm not sure the productivity was as high as it is now. And during COVID now, I'm going to run a marathon now in December. I'm seeing a coach that helps me grow my mental muscle. I have met so many new people. I've taken up paddle, and nevertheless, I still think I've done some of the best work of my life and met some of the most interesting people in my life, despite being sort of confined to a home. So, yeah, I think it is a very interesting social experiment. But let's not forget that, you and I are fortunate. We're working in an industry that is digital. And, I also happen to be an owner in a football club, which couldn't accept people into the stadiums, where half of the sponsors were doing things that were impacted very negatively from COVID. And, people had to take pay cuts, and they were used to a very, it doesn't work for them to work at home the same way we do. So I think we need to really, really empathize with all the people affected negatively, which is plenty.
And just seeing that society is opening up now again makes, you can feel the vibe that life is coming back.
It's amazing.
Yeah. This new venture.
Yeah.
What do you want to share your values? Have you already set them?
Yeah.
How long will you be able to keep them?
I can talk around conceptually the values. So I am obviously a Jobs fan, and not as much as as Tim Cook, but I'm a Jobs fan, and I obviously was very inspired and interested to read that he brought his whole executive team to Japan because he wanted to show them the moss gardens. And
sorry, the what?
That's the I don't know if you have seen these gardens, these amazing Japanese gardens they have, where you have these gravels and you have this rock and you have this nature around it, these beautiful aesthetic landscapes. It's almost like, I wish this is a podcast, but I wish I could show you.
This is one of your 10 sort of bucket list have to do.
Yeah, I actually had a trip booked to a wedding in Japan, and I would love to go to the wedding, but I would also love to go to the moss gardens, and we're going there as soon as travel permits it. I haven't done it myself, but I've looked at plenty of videos and looked at monks and people, designers from Japan. And, he found the whole simplicity is the ultimate sophistication whilst being there, learning it from people. And I can't really illustrate it now, but you have...
we should have a picture.
We should have a picture. Imagine like
is it
this little...
like this?
This is actually quite the opposite in many ways. Like, imagine you have this sea of gravel, right? And then you have this big rock in the middle of it. And when you sit there and look at it, the sea of gravel, all the negative spaces, we would say in design, enhances the character of the rock. So when you sit there and watch, you really dive deep into the actual rock, into the characteristics of that shape while sitting there. And the point is that the negative space and everything around enhances the item, which ultimately led to, the interface of the iPod, where nothing can be more than 3 clicks away, because then people won't be able to find it. So if you're going to make an abundance, simplicity leads to abundance, then nothing can be more than 3 clicks away, right? And these kind of revelations came when he sat there. And I thought that was incredibly interesting. If the way humans change, utilize technology, if the most influential company in the world, if all their design and their interface concepts actually comes from that culture and these design principles, then that's a value I want to study more. So we found the concept of flow. That's one of our values, reaching this state of abundant inspiration. And in order to create that, you need to have silence, you need to have simplicity, you need to have mindfulness. And that's an example of one of the values we took inspiration from. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there, but I find that's one of them. I find that very, very interesting. So
instead of stressing your people,
yes,
it's important to give them space to get creative.
You need to, I wouldn't say stress people, but you need to drive people as well, right? Like, ultimately, we have targets. We know how many FTDs we want to reach within a certain time frame. We have a budget. We know what what numbers we need to reach, and we know who's responsible for what and by when they need to do things more or less. So I'd say that the point is not necessarily not having the pressure and not having the drive and not having the speed, but the point is to create an environment that facilitates that without it being negative.
So my metaphor here is your 200 days of traveling.
Correct.
You know, people come to the office 5 days a week, if not more.
Yes.
Sit by their stations for 8 hours and are sort of timed with breaks, and you know, it's not always there where productivity comes out.
Absolutely not.
So that's a good learning as well.
I think you need to find a golden balance. You still need the office. You know, it can also be stressful to be at home around kids and having a dog that barks at you and follows you around the house and what else happening, you know. And it can be good to escape, but I think we need to build office spaces in a new way. I think I very much like the Deep Work book and the concept, you know, that when you arrive to the office, the first thing you should see is what the team has actually produced, sort of a library and what do you say in English, atelier, you know, where everything is exhibited, so that you should take inspiration from what has been done before, and you should obviously outperform yesterday. So you then come into sort of a collaboration space where you can sit if you want amongst people and you can discuss and you can brainstorm. But then behind there is actual enclosed offices where you can isolate yourself from the world, not small, you know, pods or anything like that. Proper offices where there should be a coach in case you need to lay down, right? But it would be a private space where you can enclose yourself from the world and focus. So that's the type of offices we are going for, but it will be balanced. You know, you decide yourself when you want to come and when you need to come beyond, obviously, meetings set up where everybody needs to be there.
So I'm thinking, so if Steve Wozniak, if he is, you know, the tech guru and he's the one that you bring to companies like Gig,
right?
Who would Ichiban have as is that Steve Jobs instead, or
Adam Grant?
Adam Grant.
Yes.
Enlighten me.
Adam Grant is a former HR executive at Google. And he invented, in many ways, much of the modern sort of tech work theory. He's written plenty of books and a must-read for every HR executive, I think. And
good tip, thank you.
Very inspirational person. Yeah, he's in a number of podcasts and sessions. You can find him everywhere online. Highly inspiring character.
Good.
Yeah.
Will he come? Maybe when you have an office, or when you have reached a golden amount of employees.
Yeah, and I think to spark his interest, you need to do something very, very something very noteworthy. And we're not there yet. I don't like to shout about it before we're proud about it, but hopefully we can get there where we can attract somebody like him. If not, we will go to him.
Cool.
Yeah.
As you would have in a coaching session, Robin, is there anything that we haven't covered today that I am missing?
You tell me. Look, I'm really happy for the world opening up again. I'm really happy that we're putting COVID behind us for what the industry have achieved during. It's been very resilient. It has capitalized on the opportunity. It's so nice to be in Malta and see everybody coming out to the streets again. Looking forward to meet a lot of people.
And all the learnings that we've gotten from it. All the
what a fantastic experiment and how much we have learned from it.
Exactly. Cool. I hope to see you in this kind of setup soon again.
Likewise. It was wonderful.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming
Cheers.
to Malta, for coming here especially. And
thank you for having me. Cheers.
See you soon again.
Thank you.
Ciao.